Start off here. I welcome the people on the internet. Hello, everyone out there in internet land. We're glad that you're with us tonight. We're here at Central Christian Center in our Saturday Night Live Life Recovery room. And we just have gone live. We just had prayer for some of the prayer requests that we've had, and we're glad that you're here with us now. I want to say that Saturday night is here to help each and every person. Life is messy, life is a struggle, and I am just a fellow struggler trying to help and work and assist not only those that are here in live, in person, there you go, but also on video. Tonight we're going to be covering in step 5. We are addressing the topic out of step 5 of receiving forgiveness, and Tommy's going to be sharing that step, and Willie's going to be doing the reflection, and then I will be taking care of Doug time. Some of the things that we're going to be going over is, again, like I said, we're going to be dealing with receiving forgiveness, which is an extremely important and maybe sometimes challenging topic. I'm going to be talking about in our relapse prevention information that I've been going over. This will be our 9th week. I'm going to be covering specifically 3 strategies for mental health relapse prevention. So we're going to be covering those things. We have bracelets here that we hand out every week for those that are interested. They're different colors. Tommy, if anybody wants one, they're right there on the corner of the table. We have white bracelets just for today, up to 30 days. We have orange for 30 days and more. We have green for 60 days and more. We have maroon for 90 days and more, blue for 6 months and more, yellow for 9 months and more, glow in the dark, a year and more, gray for 18 months, black for 2 years, silver for 5 years, and gold for 10 years. Anybody here need a bracelet? Okay, we got one back here. You can take care of that, Tommy. These are to celebrate your time, whatever you're celebrating, whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever that issue is. There's more addictions than drugs and alcohol. There are all kinds of addictions and behavioral issues. And so if you would like some of these, you're welcome to come to the live meeting and get one, and or let me know and we'll try to get it to you. Also, we have our offering basket that we'll set back on that table over there. If you have an offering, you can put that in that. That helps us in taking care of some of the expenses here in the meeting. Thoughts, questions, and quotes. We've been going over these particular questions ever since we started the relapse prevention information, and I decided I was going to ask these same questions every week, and hopefully as it is sinking in and causing you to think. This is your first time here, so this is first time questions. So it's good. Now we're reviewing a little bit. So the first question is, what causes relapse? What causes relapse? Do what?
Drugs.
Drugs causes it?
Sometimes.
So it sneaks up on us and tackles us and makes us relapse.
I would say our environment.
But that's what I was gonna say, environment. Like just,
Yeah, you're right about that.
I mean, like, what if you live in, say, an apartment building and a drug dealer
That-
moves in?
That can be a real triggering place. So, triggers would be, which could be the environment, and could be drugs, because drugs could be a trigger, right? Or thoughts, or cravings,
The smell, like
or
something
smells.
smell that you go,
There are multiple things that can cause relapse. But the reason why we ask that question every week is, you know, what causes your relapse?
Unforgiveness.
Unforgiveness. All right. Okay, so that is an issue, and hopefully we can start to clear some of that up, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay, next question. What are common triggers for relapse?
Perry.
Okay, all right. It can.
Say that one more question again?
What are common triggers for relapse or for your relapse? Because it's really good to know those triggers, right? So that those triggers don't sneak up on you. That hopefully you could see them coming and then maybe prevent them, right? You know, what we talked about a few weeks ago, it takes less willpower to avoid getting involved with a trigger than it is to go into the trigger and then try to use willpower to deal with the trigger. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go to the next one. What does it mean if you relapse? I want to answer this one, okay? Because I think this is the most important, one of the most important questions here. What does it mean if you relapse? What it means is you haven't done self-care and you haven't educated yourself. Pretty much that's it. Because if you have done self-care, then you've strengthened yourself to be able to manage all the triggers, the issues, knowing what you need to do, how you need to do that, manage your life. In other words, you've grown, developed, matured. You have been in meetings that helped you to mature and begin to see life differently. I like what Steve Metzger says, learn to live life on life's real terms instead of what our fantasy wants life to be. Hello. And then education. You know, education. We have to, if we try to live life based on the information that we have always had, and we lived in our addictive mindset, then when we try to change, we don't have any power, anything to help us to change, because we're operating on the old information. And if you only know what you know, then you're going to do what you've always done. Hello, right? Okay, all right. Why do people relapse when things go good?
Because they think they can
Because they think they can handle
handle it.
it, yeah. Anything else? Why do people relapse when things are going good or well? Well, oftentimes they want to reward themselves because they've done so well, and that they think they can handle it now. I mean, I've had 1 week clean time, so I ought to be able to handle it, right? Or like one guy told me, he said, I've been clean, but I want to help this guy get clean, so would I just do more dope than he can do, and then hit stop? Well, they both ended up in the ditch, right? And so, and that's some of that uneducated thinking, right? Right? But guess what? He got educated with that, because I said, well, what did you learn from that? That was the wrong approach. Well, you guys all see that, but he didn't at the time. So why do people relapse when things go good or well? Sometimes even they get worried and afraid about not using. And when you get worried and afraid that you're going to use, because now it's been 6 months, now it's been 9 months, now it's been a year, you know, this is the longest time I've ever been clean. I don't know. And if we go to worrying and focusing on the negative, guess where we go? We go where we focus.
Right back.
Yeah. Because we were worrying about doing something wrong. So stop looking at the wrong and start looking at where you want to go, which is the right or the healthy thing. Does that make sense? Focus on where you want to go, not where you don't want to go. One is fear, one is faith. How's that? Will I always be in danger of relapse? We always have a little bit of discussion about that. And the fact of it is, I wish it wasn't so, but it is so that we are always susceptible. Just as we are always susceptible to do wrong things in our life, or what we might call sin, because it slips up on us. If we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't do the self-care, if we don't stay engaged, if we're not staying in that growth cycle, education, then we set ourselves up for a relapse.
Would you say self-care / self-control?
Self-control would be a part of learning, using self-care to learn self-control.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah. Self-care is all kinds of things. It's having a relapse prevention program. It's simple as maybe appropriate eating, finding a healthy routines and habits, people and places and things that I'm going to go, people and places and things I don't go, and be aware of my triggers and deal with them quicker, sooner than later. All right. When you start having the sense or tingling or whatever it is, that thinking that you're in the wrong place, don't question it. You're in the wrong place. Okay, right? Move. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more when I talk about the strategies, the 3 strategies that I'm going to talk about later tonight. Okay. Did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. Next. The last question is, why or what started you on your addictive path? And the reason why I ask that question is because if we understand the roots of the tree, then we understand why the tree is there, why the addiction is there, why the behaviors are there, why I feel the way I feel, all those things. And I may not be able to find it. And some people don't even want to look because they're afraid what they're going to find. Hello. And but as long as you are hiding from yourself, you're setting yourself up for relapse. Right? So, I like what Dr. Mata says, don't tell me about your drug use, tell me about your pain. So you need to deal with your pain. And when you've dealt with your trauma issues, your pain issues, emotional pain issues, you deal with that stuff, then the reason why oftentimes then is eliminated, and then all you have to do is work on altering your behaviors or your habits. And I didn't say that correct. I said all you have to do. It's still not easy, but it's doable when you have the recovery part of what we talk about recovery. Abstinence is not recovery. Abstinence is just abstinence. You're not using. But the trouble is, when you stop using this substance or behavior, then you usually replace it with another substance or behavior because the issue was never recovered. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. We're going to be dealing with forgiveness tonight, and I wanted to read you a definition of forgiveness I pulled off of the internet. It says, forgiveness is vitally important for the mental health. Now, we're here talking about recovery here, and it's all areas of mental health. And we're not talking about just mental health, which is oftentimes looked at as people that have mental issues, because the fact of it is, we all got mental issues. It's just in degrees, okay? We all have some form of mental disorders, because disorders is about unhealthy thought patterns, disordered thought, okay? I'm not talking about disease here, okay? But the fact of it is, there's not much mental disease. But they call a lot of mental disorder disease, and it's just, they have misspoken. Disorder is that a unhealthy or toxic thought patterns. That's where a lot of not paying attention, not taking care of self-care, not dealing with your triggers, not educating yourself, healing your issues, becoming, I'm not going to say less afraid, because I don't know that we become less afraid, but actually we become more brave to deal with our stuff. Does that make sense? All right, so let's get back into the forgiveness is vitally important for the mental health of those who have been victimized. It propels people forward rather keeping them emotionally engaged in an injustice or trauma.
I was gonna say, it's kind of like a block.
Yeah,
It'll stop you from growing spiritually.
It is a weight.
Yeah.
Okay? It is baggage that we're dragging around that we say we got to hold on to. Okay? Because it's my baggage. And I sure am not going to let anybody else take my baggage, even though I don't want it, but I'm still not going to let go of it. We'll talk a little more about that later. Forgiveness has been shown to elevate, listen to this, moods, enhance optimism. Remember, this is what forgiveness does. Okay, and this is from Psychology Today, by the way. All right, this is from Psychology Today. It elevates moods, enhances optimism, guards against anger, ding, 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 stress, anxiety, and depression. What do you think about that? That's the reason why I said forgiveness is a very important topic that we need to address. Okay, and that's the reason why we're talking about it tonight. All right. Let's see. I'm about to run out of time here, so there are several quotes that I wanted to read here tonight. Let me read this one. Yeah, I like this one. You can't hate yourself into love. That's what unforgiveness is self-hatred, oftentimes, or self-punishment.
Sometimes forgiving ourselves can be the hardest. Forgiving others may come easy, but forgiving yourself can be one of the hardest.
It is the hardest, okay? And that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks for a lot of people, okay?
Some people don't think they can forgive themselves. They don't think that's a thing.
Yeah.
Or that it's possible.
Yeah. Well, I usually use that terminology of forgiving yourself, but actually it's appropriating the grace and the forgiveness that God has given us. Yeah. And so we have to apply that to ourselves, and we're going to be talking more about that because it is a big thing. Yeah. And doing step 1, 2, and 4 helps us to process and be able to do that. And of course now we're in step 5, which is actually really working it. So that's what we're talking about tonight. I like this from Tony Robbins. He says, focus, and I've kind of already touched this, focus on where you want to go, not what you fear. Okay? All right, and here's another from Tony. He says, what you practice in private will be rewarded in public. What you practice in private will be rewarded in public.
Heaven too.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, which one I want to. This is Gandhi said live as if you were to die tomorrow, but learn as if you were to live forever. So we need to keep digging. And I want to stop with this one. I have several. I have a page and a half full of quotes, but this one kind of, I don't know, something about this one. Maybe, anyway, I'll read it to you and then see what you guys think. This is from Neil Gaiman, which I never heard of before, but I like to quote. He says, fairy tales are more than true, but not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. There's something about that just gets me, okay? And because our fear wants to rise up and tells us all kinds of things, okay? But the fact of it is, if we stay with it, if we don't quit, if we don't sabotage ourselves, we win. We will win. Okay, well, let's go forward. And Heather, are you ready to read 12 steps? Heather's going to come and she's going to do that. Do you have paper to do that, or are you going to use mine?
I'm going to use yours.
Okay.
Good evening. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems in our lives had become unmanageable. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
Heather, let's slow down just a little bit.
5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it. It's all right.
What's going on out there in internet land? I was out there with you guys for a few weeks. I'm back today.
Yay!
It's nice to see you guys here.
But it's better to see you here.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna try and read this a little faster than she did the steps.
I don't know if you can.
Want to try? I will. First paragraph,
Okay.
and then I'll slow down. Receiving forgiveness. It's in Acts 26:12-18. I think they have it in there. Yeah. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact natures of our wrongs. As we work our recovery program, we go through a process of accepting the truth about our life and the consequences of our choices. We may feel that we have to earn forgiveness instead of just receiving it. We may find it easier to forgive others who have hurt us than to forgive ourselves for the hurts we have caused. When Jesus confronted the Apostle Paul, he gave him this mission: "Now get to your feet, for I have appeared to you to appoint you as my servant and my witness. Yes, I'm sending you to the Gentiles to open their eyes so they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. Then they will receive forgiveness for their sins and be given a place among God's people who are set apart by faith in me." Acts 26:16-18. God's goal is sending his word to us. God's goal in sending his word to us is that we may receive forgiveness. The process involves first opening our eyes to our true condition, which happens in steps 1, 2, and 4. This allows us the opportunity to repent, changing our mind so that we are in agreement with God and are ready to admit our sins. God wants us to receive immediate forgiveness based on the finished work of Jesus Christ. We are not second-class citizens in the kingdom of God. We don't have to work the rest of the 12 steps as a form of penance. Forgiveness awaits us right now if we will only receive it. I don't like animosity between people. I don't like negative energy. It really messes with my mental health. And I was thinking about that this week, like negative energy and unforgiveness, and just, it's not something I want to hold on to. It's uncomfortable. Unforgiveness is not a very comfortable place to be in. I have to go over here. The scriptures were different in but the questions of the workbook. It's Matthew 5:23 and 24. I'll look that up right now. You guys having a good week?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I had a rough start, but it got better. It was a learning experience. And then I'll forget 23, 24.
I have it right here.
My phone was being
In the yellow.
slow. So, if you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple and you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar. Go and be reconciled to that person. Then come and offer your sacrifice to God. I thought I was ready for that part. Apparently I wasn't. If I can find it where I was at. I was thinking people would say I needed to forgive myself, and I couldn't understand how to forgive myself while I was still doing the same junk that was causing me to have to forgive myself. So I always thought for years, what's the point of forgiving myself if I'm still gonna go out there and pick up the sack and live the crazy life, and now I get it.
So what is it you get?
Well, if I stopped stacking things on top of things that were gonna cause me problems, then maybe my life would get better.
All right.
I mean, I'm not perfect today, but I don't have to cover my tracks as often. Here's the questions out of the workbook. Why would God want reconciliation before praise when we bring gifts to him? I put, why would I want to run around acting like everything's fine when it really isn't? Before going and fixing, like if I had problems and I don't know. That's the way I've seen it. Like, I don't think God wants us running around acting like everything's okay when we have undealt with business.
Well, the idea here is that, it's talking, if we go back to Matthew, when he says, when you go to present a sacrifice at the altar, and you realize, I got trouble, I have this problem, or I've done this, or whatever. That causes, he says, leave your gift there and go and reconcile. In other words, go clean up your mess.
Well, I thought, I could be at church dropping money in the offering basket when I owe the guy behind me $500 for rent and I'm not paying him or something, and I thought about that.
Yeah, and that tactic is actually trying to, I don't know a more tactful way of saying this, but basically you're trying to make a deal with God.
That's what I was like. You're trying to appease God.
Yeah, you're giving, trying to give
Yeah.
instead of making a change.
Yeah.
If I stack up enough goods, then I can be as bad as I am.
Yeah.
And what he wants is to be able, and he can't really bless that
No.
because you already know you've messed up. So he said, what's the best thing for you is to go deal with your stuff, grow up, come back, and then present it so that
Talk to me about it. Yeah.
so that you can be blessed by your giving of your sacrifice.
God likes it when we present our bodies as a sacrifice.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
there's a lot of things within us we can sacrifice. It's another good form of worshiping God.
Next question was, does anyone have anything against you that needs to be reconciled? Who and why? And my only answer to this is, who doesn't? I mean, it's not my only answer, but my answer was, who doesn't? Who doesn't have someone that has someone against them at some point in their life? It's all what we do with it. Like before, I just leave. I wouldn't go around those people or I just wouldn't deal with it. And today, I'd rather just deal with stuff, It's harder to sometimes.
But it's healthier to go ahead and deal with it, right? You know what you just said a while ago?
Yeah, it depends on what it is. I think sometimes it's hard to deal with things that aren't your problem, that are kind of presented to you like you own the whole situation, and that's a new one for me,
Well, if it's not anything that comes our way could very well be our responsibility to deal with in some way.
Yeah.
But if we avoid taking responsibility, then we're basically negatively affecting us and those around us.
True. But I did think of some people that I'd like to be reconciled with, but me personally, I don't see it ever happening. But
Well,
I mean, all things.
the people at the Red Sea thought there wasn't a way, and then God made a way.
Yeah. So I had a situation this week, and then all of a sudden somebody that's basically been a family member my whole life. Hey, what are you doing? I was like, what? I feel like my life went like, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, how are you? And I was like, I haven't talked to you in 20 years. I don't know how to answer this,
Yes.
And I didn't want to vomit all my problems that I was going through, so I had to carry myself in my conversation with them, I was talking to them,
And the fact that it is, forgiveness is not just about the other person. Forgiveness is about you.
Yeah, it was kind of a good feeling, because there was a lot of problems between us for years, and it was nice to have that.
We can deal, if there's people, and we'll talk about more about this in step 9, but we're here about forgiveness today, that we can do indirect amends, and we can come to the place that we deal with our stuff. And see, the main deal about recovery is that we grow up and we mature and we deal with our stuff. And so, and I have found that when I get in a better position to be able to deal with those individuals sometimes show up in my life, and then I'm able to deal with them.
That's kind of like what's in the next question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Getting ahead of yourself there, Doug. Now, what would be the impact on your life if you opened yourself up to forgiveness of others and from others? I've had some times where I've apologized to some people and they just go, "Oh, bless your heart, sweetheart, you never did nothing." And I'm like, I had more unforgiveness after leaving that time because they like shot me down. And I'm like, okay. And then I also had some situations where it was like, "We good?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're good. I'm sorry about all that stuff that happened." And then all of a sudden, you just know that you're fine and you never really have nothing to do with them ever again. I've had that, but that's also a good feeling too, because when you run into them, you're not feeling like you got to get away from them or get out of the room or, just stuff I go through.
So you made a statement earlier about not liking being around people that give you negative vibes. So what if we were to clear up our end of stuff with forgiveness and had more positive vibrations ourselves? I wonder if that would have any effect out there.
Well, yeah, because then you just walk through the situation and know that it really doesn't have nothing to do with you or me or,
Would you say that again?
what?
What you just said?
You realize you don't own the situation. You're not in control of it, God is. Everything can't always be perfect everywhere we go, So, that's all I got.
Thanks, Tommy.
That's gonna be interesting.
That could be a hard one to follow.
Huh?
I said that could be a hard one to follow with you up here.
Don't pull Zach on me.
Zach? No, I wouldn't even compare myself to Zach. Sorry.
Sure missed that guy.
Forgiveness ain't for the people that you give it, it's for you. You receive it, it's for you. It helps you inside mentally. It's not for the rest of it. It just helps you. You receive it, helps you better once you receive it. It's all the baggage. Most people, they forget. You go up and apologize to them or whatever, ask for their forgiveness. They done forgot what you're forgiving them about. That you carried it on for so many years, and it's nothing. They don't even know what you're talking about. But it was a major issue to you. And once you realize you're over that,
Yes, I know.
your eyes are open to it. You see it, you'll be a lot better. God wants us to receive immediate forgiveness based on the finished work of Jesus Christ. And that's the bottom line. You just got to receive it.
Tommy? Did you do the last line? Did you do the last line?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to do a little skit here about, carrying our baggage. Okay, this is my baggage here. And that we're talking about forgiveness. It's my baggage. And I'm carrying it around. I've been carrying it around for a long time.
No,
Okay.
it's my baggage.
It's your baggage?
Yes.
Who are you? You're representing Jesus.
Right.
It's Jesus' baggage.
It's Jesus' baggage.
I have to play both parts?
Sorry, I flipped on that one. Sorry.
So no, this is my baggage. I've had this baggage a long time.
No, it's Jesus' baggage.
It's Jesus' baggage.
Yes.
Well, but it's my baggage, and I don't want to give it up.
No. let me
Why
see
should
it.
I give it up?
Let me see it. Now, let me see it. Let me see that one too. It's gone. All of it's gone.
So when we have baggage that we're carrying around, we gonna add more baggage to it. It loads us down, and that's like unforgiveness. And we just take it with us wherever we go. And Willie there, representing Jesus, Jesus paid the price to forgive us. And we have to be willing to let it go. I resisted, just like most of us do, right? So we have to let him have it. And when we do that, because he's paid the price, then we're free. And I don't have to carry that around anymore. But the fact that it was, I didn't have to carry it around anyway before, but that's what I chose to do. Does that make sense? And so what we get to do is make a new choice and receive that forgiveness. That's what I said a while ago when talking about that. Any comments or questions on the step? Would you put that basket over on the other table? Yeah. Oh, close enough. Go ahead and just tuck it right up here. Any questions, comments, thoughts? I know this skid's a little different. We didn't do a lot of rehearsal on that, in case you couldn't tell.
I'm not a good actor.
So, but did we get our point across? Huh? Okay.
Please say that.
I would say so.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, we've been talking about, let me back up here, and there's some notes I made on the information that Tommy went over and that Willie went over. And something that jumped out at me in the scripture reading that Tommy had shared now to Acts 26, 16 to 18. When the Apostle Paul, well, it was Saul at that time, but he became Paul. When Jesus spoke to him and gave him his mission, and he said, "I appeared to you," he told Paul to do two things. And to me, I thought this was important to communicate because it kind of makes it simple. Okay, this is what Jesus told Paul to do. All right. The first thing was to be my servant, to serve God, to serve Him, the Lord. All right? Not yourself, to serve Him. Now, that may have some difficulties in it, but it is pretty simple, right? You're either serving Him or not serving Him. You're either allowing, giving up what needs to be given up because you know He wants you to, so that would be service to Him. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so the second thing is to witness for me. The most powerful thing that we have is our witness. What He has done for you. You listen to people that their life has been turned around, or things that happened, or they had a tremendous experience that impacted their life. That's their witness. What has happened to you is your story, and because it happened to you and you're communicating as your story, that impacts people.
Yep.
because your story will tell them, well, maybe if they can do it, I might be able to do it. Or if I have that same problem that they had, maybe I can get better too, or at least get a little bit better. So, two things, simple things. One was to be a servant, okay, to serve, okay, not only serve him but serve others. And the other is to be a witness, share your story. A lot of people get nervous and uptight, and Willie speaking up here, this is kind of new for him, and the thing of it is, but when you can just tell what's happened to you, your story, this is what's happened. This is your witness that has an impact with people. And I thought that was, I don't know, that jumped out at me when I was going through those scriptures. And the goal that God has, and the reason why he sent Jesus for us, was to send his word to give us that forgiveness. And that's what we need to do. We need to be willing, if he's given it, okay, like Willie said on the skit, its price has been paid, it's not yours anymore, it never was yours, but you're just acting like it. You need to receive that forgiveness. Forgive yourself, or appropriate the forgiveness that God has given you. What do you think about that so far? Okay. All right. Let's talk about, there it is, relapse prevention. This is part 9. Again, step 5 is we admit to God, ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrong. We talked quite a bit about that last week. Did anybody remember what I talked about there, about the exact nature of our wrong? That it's not what we did, it's why we did it. What was going on in our life that either pushed us, affected us, caused us to be in a disordered state, okay, or even a trauma state. To do that, if we can recognize those things, that is the nature why I keep doing the same thing that I've always done. It's not just habit, okay? And if we can identify that, then we can change things, okay? All right, so tonight we're going to, the 3 stages, we've talked about this, the 3 stages of relapse. Emotional relapse is the first stage. The second stage is mental relapse, second stage. Third stage is physical relapse. We've talked about that. Last week I went through all the signs that they have talked about, and the fact of it is, if you had any of those signs, you need to be aware, because you're in either a emotional, mental, or physical relapse. Do I need to clear that up for you because you're new here a little bit? Do I need to?
Yeah, go ahead and run it back, I was distracted, sorry.
Do what?
I was distracted, sorry.
All right. Well, I didn't say what I was going to say. I was just asking you if I need to say, put more definition behind what the emotional relapse is, the emotional, mental relapse, and the physical relapse. The one we most think that all relapse is the physical relapse, is actually when we go to using or seeking to use or to act out. The mental relapse, I'm backing up from the third one, this is the second one, is the mental relapse, and that is that we go to thinking, and the biggest key is we go to rationalizing why we should be able to use. Okay, that's mental, okay, because we go to thinking about it. Because whatever you think about expands, and you think about anything long enough, that's what you do.
Flirting with it, throwing fuel on the fire.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first one is emotional relapse, is that you haven't maybe even thought about drugs or acting out or the behavior or the addiction, but the fact of it is you haven't done self-care, you haven't dealt with yourself, you haven't educated yourself, you stopped going to meetings or you weren't going to meetings, and you stay in that same sick emotional state, and these things come up, you get triggered, and we need to recognize that when that stuff starts happening, you're in a emotional relapse. So those are the three stages, okay? Emotional, mental, and then physical. Of course, physical is the hardest one to turn around. It's not impossible. We talked about this the other day, is give yourself 30 minutes not to act out or use or seek or call somebody to help you to engage in different activities. And we'll talk a little bit more about that because I'm going to be talking about the strategies here in a moment. The three strategies, here we are. Three strategies for mental health relapse prevention. Okay, the first one is, okay, this is mental relapse, okay? And it's not just mental health, but it's for mental, relapse has to do with all sorts of nuance of stuff, of addictive behaviors or acting out, compulsive, obsessive behavior. Does that make sense? So it's not just drugs and alcohol, pornography, sex addiction, cutting, gambling, violence, rage. It's all of those and many more. Okay? All right. So the first one here is, the first strategy is this. Did I say the first strategy? Yeah. The first strategy is this. Don't stay idle. Okay? Because idleness gets you. What'd you say, Tommy? Don't stay idle. And don't sit in the middle of your stuff. Okay? What's that going to do? Yeah. You know, you lock yourself down, you isolate, you hide out, and you're staying in your mental, emotional stuff. You are caught. One of the things that we have to do is we have to get up and we have to begin to take action. When you start to feel those urges, when you start to have those sensations, when you start to have grandiose thinking or exaggerated thinking about the substance behavior, you're living out the old movies and you're thinking about how good it all was. Isn't that how we trick ourselves? That's how we push ourselves into acting out. So don't sit in it. Don't stay in it. What do? Get active. Because inaction causes your mind to be very susceptible to those feelings, those urges, those cravings. Is that not the truth? Yeah. Right? So you need to take some sort of action. Exercise is good. Activity is good. Calling somebody is good. Whatever will work for you. The one thing that will not work for you is getting idle. Okay? That will not work. Now, I know there's a lot of us that says, well, it's just, I'll just take care of it myself. Some of you will say, well, it's just me and Jesus, that's enough. Well, that should be enough, but the fact of it is there's a weak point there, and it's not Jesus. No. Got real quiet right there, didn't it? and so the fact of it is we have to take healthy steps. And we need to get up, get active, okay? Some things, number one is don't sit there. Even if it's walk around the block, okay? Because the fact of it is, there's research that says that these thoughts, these feelings, these urges, these cravings, they have a term called urge surfing. Have you ever heard of that? Urge surfing. That's kind of like surfing the waves in the ocean, but it's talking about that you can surf on these urges. And instead of getting caught up in them, then you can go over them, and then eventually it will push you up to the shore, and you can just walk on. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So what we need to do is to get active. Don't sit in it. Addiction-related thoughts thrive in inactivity. Okay? So don't let them grow. Now, you say they'll get over in 20 or 30 minutes. They will if you don't feed them. Okay? If you stay in the middle of them, if you sit in the midst of them, you stay focused on it. If you don't find some way to distract yourself, then you're going to stay locked in, and they're not going to go away in 20 or 30 minutes. In fact, they're going to get stronger. Isn't that the truth? Hello, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Yeah. And so what we have to do is we need to get active. And if you can find some strenuous exercise, is really good, because you release dopamine, which affects you, and which neuroscience says that it's better than Prozac to deal with your anxiety.
Whoa.
And there's a lot of positive benefits and not that many negative side effects. Okay, to exercise. All right, number two, play the tape forward. Okay, strategy number two. Strategy number one is don't sit idle. Number two is play the tape forward. Well, you may have to do some activity, do something to get you out of being possessed. How about that terminology with what's going on? Was that an okay terminology, possessed? So that you are able then to get a little clearer where you can play the tape forward. In other words, what will happen if I relapse? If I do X, Y, and Z, what am I going to do? If I sit here, or if I go back and sit down and get caught back up in that same stuff, what's that going to do? Where's that going to take me? Is that where I want to go? Hello, is that what you want? So you have to play the tape forward. And when you do that, you start to begin to see things a little differently. And because if you're not playing the tape forward, then you're rationalizing to yourself, like, well, I can do it one more time, right? I can, I'm out of town, so nobody will know, so I can get away with it. I have found everywhere I go, there's somebody there that seems to know me. How about you? You don't have to answer that. But it's true. Wherever I go, I'm trying to think. When I went to Mexico, I don't know that I ran across anybody that knew me. So that I may have misspoke right there. So what we need to do is we need to play it forward. We need to play the tape forward and ask ourselves a question: what will happen next? What will happen next? Is that what I want? The third strategy is pretty similar to the second strategy, according to this information, and it says, what will happen after I use? The second strategy, if I stay doing what I'm doing, where's that going to lead me? Now we've used, and now we ask ourselves, what's my future going to look like? What's it going to do to me? How's things going to end up? Well, a lot of people, they've been there before, so they have a pretty good idea how it's going to end up, if they're able to live through it. Trouble is, we all know people that didn't live through it, right? So what we have to do is we need to go ahead and we need to look at the rest of the movie. The first tape was we're playing out what we're doing there, our rationalizations, and what's going to happen. And then this last movie is, where's that going to take my life? What's that going to do to my relationships? What's that going to do to, if I have a job, what's that going to do to my job? What's that going to do with the people that put their trust in me? What's that going to do to my life? What's that going to do to my kids? What's that going to do to my community? What's that going to do to me? What's that going to do to my health? What's that going to do to my mental health? My physical health? Play the movie forward. And there is a counseling terminology about looking to your deathbed and letting yourself that's laying on the deathbed tell you what you need to do. That's you speaking to you. Sounds a little strange, but you ought to think about it. If you look at you on your deathbed, it has a pretty good idea what you need to do right now. Would you agree with that? Hello? And so if we solicit our own future counseling and listen to it, then hopefully we'd make some real healthy choices. Comments? What do you think about the 3 strategies? Which one's the most effective to you or for you? Any comments? No comments. Okay. Any questions? Yep, it is. Well, I'm glad you guys were here. Thanks for coming tonight, being here. Hopefully you'll come back and be with us. And so, anyway, we will be here next week, but then the week after that, we will not be here. That would be Memorial Day weekend. And all of you out in internet land, I know we're cutting off a little bit short, but I usually run a little long, and so we're glad that you're with us too. And so right now I'm going to say, may the Lord bless you, keep you, and may His face shine upon you and give you His peace. And of course, always make healthy choices. Thanks for being with us.